Just a piece of birch bark that's fairly flat, and birch bark works pretty good, but the key to getting an effective catch plate is, and this is when the catch plate is down on the ground and you're stepping on your hearth board and it's flexing, there can be a tendency for it to curl some. And when you take the hearth board off, then it flexes up a little bit, can toss your coal. So you want to get something that's fairly flat to begin with, and that isn't going to, you know, pop and throw your coal for you. So make it about as flat as you can, as opposed to a piece of birch bark that's, you know, so curly that, you know, it's acting like a spring. So I'm going to use that little flat piece of birch bark. We've got our divot, and now we've prepped our spindle. Again, I try to make these about, you know, the span of my hand for length. The importance of that is, if you get a spindle that's too short, you're going to be leaning over too far for your body mechanics. If it compresses your diaphragm, you can't get a good breath. So the longer you can make it and control it, the better it's going to work for you. If you get it too long, the spindle's going to be moving too much, and then you're going to have hard control and you won't get this proper speed and friction and everything. You make it too short, you get that compression, you lose your energy. So usually for most people, if you make it the span of the hand or a little bit longer and about the size of your thumb, it'll work real well. So we've got a piece of aspen, we've got this, we've got a bearing block, and we've got our bowl. And I tend to start mine out with a little bit of slackness. I don't know, I'll show you how I can control that with my thumb, but we don't need our catch pan right away. So now we're going to see if we can at least drill in and prep our divot. So I find a fairly flat location, and now your body mechanics are really important at this point, because you need to be as efficient as you can. So I kind of try to empty my pockets of cameras and cell phones and whatever, so that I can bend properly and I'm not interfered with. I then try to get my leg and pant leg and everything so that it's not going to interfere with my spindle, and I put it within about an inch of where that divot is. And you notice the offset of my bearing is going to allow me to lock my wrist against my shin and put that spindle right over the divot. So I'm locked in. It's very mechanically, you know, going to work real well. Then I set my right knee back so it's out of the way. So I'm already prepped. I try to keep the tip of my spindle from getting too damp. So you charge the spindle by pushing it between the bowstring and the bowl, turning it counterclockwise for a little bit. I might have this just set too tight, but we'll see. Yeah, for this spindle I might have misguessed my... Yeah, I'm going to lighten that up just a little bit. I do that with a couple of half hitches that I can easily take out. Just unwind it. Try to get my side that I use, and I just pull it out a little bit and rewrap 2 or 3 fraps in the front, and right around the back a couple times, and anchor it with a couple of half hitches just to get the tail out of the way. Now it's a little slacker. Okay, now we're going to pop again, put the spindle inside the bowl, turn it to the outside, pop it up into position. I think I got it about right. Alright, I'm going to take the bearing block with the left hand, put the spindle in place. I'm holding it in my hand so it can't pop apart. Put the bearing on there, lock it against my shin, and start. And notice on my right hand how I'm putting pressure on the string just to maintain a little bit of control. You've got smoke. I'm upright, so I'm breathing. A lot of people, when they start to get smoke, they stop breathing because they inhale it and they start to close up. So I'm going to stop and then take that out. And so now I've got a little bit of a prep divot. And now here's the tricky part. And this is where I may differ from a lot of instructors, I don't know. But I like to use my Swiss Army knife sack farmer and dump that dust away. You see how the divot is. Now we need to make a notch. Well, I like to use this bridge in here to help keep that spindle from popping out. So I'm going to aim for the center, start a little bit of a saw cut, and then I'm going to rotate about 45 degrees, and I'm going to continue down into the wood towards that center, making just a little bit of an angled cut down towards the end. Now I'm going to pop the knife over about 60 degrees or so, 45 degrees. I'll make another cut kind of at the same angle, going down towards that center again, until I'm almost, in fact, a little bit past the bottom. Okay, because you want it kind of a steep slope so the ash exits. Then I'll turn it again and we'll cut the other half of the notch. So now we've got a nice broad notch that we just need to pop out on either side. Use the other part of my blade to do that. And this is where the sack farmer works pretty good. And the softer woods, you're going to clean that out pretty easy. And I use the blade to polish that ramp. You want to make that about as smooth as you can, because you want all of that sawdust that's starting to burn to exit that hole as quick as possible. So I will dig into this with a nice wide ramp, making it as smooth as I can. So the sack farmer and a nice fine blade really shine. Okay, and then just for good measure, up at the top here, I'll open up that hole a little bit, although it's not quite necessary, because as you drill into it, it's going to widen out on its own anyway. You see how big that gets as you're going down in there, but just to assist it a little bit, get some of that first stuff to get down, going down inside. So I've got this really large notch. I've got a bridge to keep my spindle in place. I've got a place for all of my ash to go down. I've got the proper thickness. I've got a good stable platform. I've got my catch pan. And now we can go back to doing the rest of it. I guess if we're going to bring this to a coal,